Thank you, Rick. It's funny, a lot of my friends are here in the audience tonight, and I only wrote one note for myself, and the note was, don't be boring. And I just had this terrible thought about 30 seconds ago that I was going to really be boring. So maybe I need more notes. But hopefully we can have some fun, so please begin. I started out with some of my least favorite buildings. My whole presentation is really about downtown San Jose, which is where I live and work and have for pretty much my whole life. This is the Federal Building on San Carlos Street. I think it's an example of absolutely the worst architecture possible. I would call it neutron bomb development or neutron bomb architecture. There are no people, they're just a building. This is another one of, I think, the worst examples in downtown San Jose of architecture. This is the face of Camera 12 on South 1st Street. How this ever got built, I really have no idea. It's just concrete blocks going up about 60 feet. So those are two examples of what I consider to be the ridiculous, and then the segue would be into the sublime. You all know what this building is. It was built 140, 50 years ago. When you think about what a building like this could do for a community, it's really unimaginable. Imagine something not necessarily on the scale of the Eiffel Tower, but with the drama and the beauty and something that makes your heart race. Another example, you will probably all know this building too. This is the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. And you might hate the building. It's really kind of bizarre and it's very modern. But I can't imagine walking up to it and not having a visceral reaction to it. And I wish we had more buildings in downtown San Jose that would cause that. World famous architect who designed our city hall, and there's some nice things about our city hall, but my point of the slide is, again, a failure of our downtown, which has to do with our public plazas. This one, the San Jose Rep Plaza, and the one right outside the museum, I feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with them. It's hard to know what it is, but what's really wrong with them is there are no people. Now, you all know this is St. Mark's in Venice, one of the great public plazas in the world. The buildings are only 4 or 5 stories high, but there's something human. The golden mean was somehow achieved here. The place is beautiful and people want to be there, and that's the key to these public spaces. This is the Guadalupe River, and really one of my greatest disappointments. I've been downtown in business for about 40 years now, and I thought the Guadalupe River Park could end up being something like is going to appear soon on the next slide, right about now. This is San Antonio, you probably all know that. I don't understand why we couldn't have 100 yards of moving water, or a pond like Stowe Lake in Golden Gate Park, something with a water feature. People want to be near water. It's why most of the great cities in the world are next to the water. And I just don't understand that. Very depressing to me. Now to move on to some of the positive comments that I have. I don't want to come off just too negative, because I'm really not. I'm a very positive person, right? This is Axis, and we have 4 wonderful new high-rise housing projects. We're going to have more, and this really makes me optimistic about where our downtown is going. Spur and other organizations have a lot to say about parking, and there's a lot of negativity about parking lots and cars and everything automotive. But this is the San Pedro Square parking garage. Without this parking garage, that neighborhood would not exist. We're in this unique suburban environment where people get in their cars as much as we might like them to walk. So parking lots are important to commerce, and I can say that as someone who tries to make a living selling stuff. This is what high-speed rail might look like, I think. Scott, is that right? And the point of the slide is that there's a huge opportunity ahead if high-speed rail really gets built, and the architecture around that is going to dominate much of the west side of our downtown. Now, you're all wondering, what the hell is this slide doing out there? None of the men are wondering, but all the women are wondering. The point of this is, don't be boring, don't be bland, do interesting things. I think the Downtown Association, under Scott's leadership, and a lot of us who've worked on it, have tried to do interesting things, and we continue to. No building has had a greater effect on our downtown, in my opinion, than the arena. Architecturally, I think it's interesting, not great, but interesting. but it's an example of putting a large, important urban building and what it can do to a whole neighborhood. Our downtown is only about 1 square mile, so a building like that has a huge effect. I just wanted to give kudos to Adobe. I like the Adobe buildings. I think they're very well designed, but this was more about what a corporate headquarters can do to a downtown. This is one of the most influential developments really in the last 40 years. These people come out of the buildings, they eat, they spend money, they support our nonprofits, and it's very important. You all probably know this is the California Theater, maybe my favorite building in downtown San Jose. The interior in particular is world class, it's dramatic. If you've never been there, you must go. The acoustics are phenomenal, the exterior is wonderful, and I wish we had more 100-year-old buildings like it still standing. This is a slide of Good Karma, which is a little restaurant on South First Street. Nothing about the architecture is particularly interesting, in fact it's really boring, but I just wanted to have a segue into talking about my friends who have small businesses. Ryan, who's the owner of Good Karma, is a wonderful guy, and the texture of urban life is largely dictated by these small businesses, like we now have in San Pedro Square Market. That was my best segue of the night. I was so proud of it. And I worked on this project for a few years, and whether you like all the businesses or not, I think it's a really important project, and it's very much on a human scale, and I think it's a place that you just want to go to and sit there and have a good time, and it's worked in a way that a lot of the other public plazas have not worked. It's really encouraging that Muji has opened right near here. This is a national retailer selling really cool stuff that chose downtown San Jose when they could have opened in Santana Row or Valley Fair or Stanford or anywhere else they wanted. And they have lots of customers, so it's really encouraging. That's really exciting for me. Talking about the current and future of downtown, you can't ignore the elephant in the room, which would be a baseball stadium. I think a baseball stadium along the lines of AT&T Park or Camden Yards, or some of the great stadiums, would really alter life as we know it in downtown and have a huge effect. This is me. My friends in the room who've been working and playing downtown for years, Chris Esparza, Scott Neese, and a number of others, Rick Holden. It feels like tilting at windmills at times, but I'm actually extremely optimistic for many, many reasons. It says thank you, doesn't it? But in particular, there's a whole new wave of pretty cool little businesses opening right now. Chris is opening Blackbird. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a few minutes. My family just opened Café Stritch. There's a bar called 55. I know I'm over my time here, sorry about that. And Grub Shack and the studio climbing. And there's a whole generation of these businesses, mostly owned and operated by people between 20 and 35. Chris doesn't qualify anymore. And I think you're going to find that they really change the texture. This is a world for young people, and really the old people like me just kind of follow along. So I'm really bullish on the next generation of businesses and activities downtown. And thank you.